Destiny 2 might actually be turning things around. First, we heard about their new expansion and New Light, which essentially would turn the game free to play and bring it onto Steam. Then we found out that the Season of Opulence has now brought it up to 1 million daily active players, and now they have announced a far more fair monetization system, one that is distinctly not Activision-like. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report, the show where we go into the most interesting stories that are happening in the gaming industry. And this is a really nice one because I can sit down here and I can talk about interesting news that's actually positive. That's a company doing something right. Now, okay, does this look good for Activision? No. Will this video's title and thumbnail be pretty much pointing the finger at Activision? It probably will be, but the core story here is something that undoubtedly is good. It's good for Destiny players, it's good for Bungie, and I think it is a good precedent that is being set. So, Destiny 2, when it came out, had the Eververse store, and essentially the freemium-like elements of the Destiny franchise, they were a lot worse in Destiny 2 as compared to Destiny 1. There was a lot of things that ticked off players, like shaders being consumables, meaning that it essentially was just an endless treadmill of going through shaders, which really did feel pretty darn sucky. So that, in combination with a few other parts of the Eververse store, just meant that the monetization felt a bit too much, a bit scummy, considering that it was a full-price game with a season pass that was full price. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Destiny was pretty expensive. And those things did hurt the game quite a bit. Of course, not as much as all of the initial launch problems that Destiny had. But of course, the game continued on. Forsaken was pretty good, but it clearly was not good enough to have it be worth for Activision putting their support studios like High Moon onto the project. And then, of course, that is what led to Activision securing freedom for the Destiny franchise. Now, that was announced at the start of the year, and that was actually pretty much the first thing that we talked about on this channel, because this channel is actually pretty young. So that happened, and we were then just left in a bit of limbo, wondering, what will year 2 of Destiny be like? Of course, at E3, we found out what year 2 would be like. Destiny 2 New Light. Destiny 2 would be moving to Steam. It would be essentially free to play, like with a really pretty comprehensive free version, and a la carte purchases for these seasons as they came, rather than it all being a single season pass, meaning that right now, if I wanted to hop into Destiny, I mean, I've already bought the season pass, but, if I didn't, I would have to purchase the full season pass. I could not just purchase the current Season of Opulence. So the game had all of these things holding them back. And a lot of those things basically are solved with the next year of this game. However, with that, there was still one thing that was fairly annoying to players, and that was the Eververse store. So that is their, it's their paid currency, right? It's where all that's going on. You get your bright engrams, which are kind of like little loot box things, and it's not ideal, right? It was something they really ratcheted up a lot in Destiny 2 as compared to Destiny 1. They also had things like shaders, which used to not be consumables. Well, in Destiny 2, they were consumables. And a lot of those things just did not feel that good. And they have been experimenting with the Eververse store. They have made it a little bit better over time. Actually, they've made it a little bit better over time since they got free from Activision, but it still fundamentally has had a bunch of problems. Well, they have announced that with Shadowkeep, which is their big new expansion, they are fundamentally changing how all of that stuff works in the game. And it is so much better that I'm not going to say it's unbelievable. It's obviously believable. It's exactly what we would want to see. I think it is what most people would see to be reasonable for a live service game. But just in comparison to where they were, and in comparison to what Activision Blizzard are trying to do with some of their other IP, like Call of Duty, it's just night and day. So the first thing is that on the Eververse store, they would sell armor, okay? And this was mainly armor that was supposed to be there because it was cosmetic. But the problem was, it wasn't like transmog armor. It wasn't just an appearance that you applied to your character. No, it was actual armor that you equipped. It had perks and stuff like that. And Bungie talked about how they basically had this problem where they never wanted the perks on the Eververse store armor to be that good or to be competitive, because they never wanted people feeling like they would have to go to the store to purchase the armor that was good in the game. Now, it's worth saying that that armor did have perks and all of that stuff, but it was at a low light level, and you would have to infuse it up to a high light right level if you actually wanted to use it. Now, they do have this other system in the game called ornaments, and that essentially, for people who play other games, is transmogrification. It is just being able to apply the cosmetic appearance of something to your character in a way that does not affect your statistics and your perks. Well, the big new bit of news is that all of the Eververse armor is now going to be an ornament. And that means that on the Eververse store, the paid store, you won't be able to purchase anything that is gameplay affecting, like perks. And it is true that the perks are almost always a bad thing there, but I suppose one does have to wonder, if you put the tinfoil hat on for a second, they had ornaments in the game anyway. Was it a thing from Activision that the Eververse armor had to be literal armor that your character would wear that would have a statistical impact? Because you only need to look at Call of Duty Black Ops 4, a game that now has in its loot boxes actual guns with unique stats. It has new guns in the loot boxes. That heavily incentivizes people to jump into the purchases. So when you see Activision do that, and you see how elements of the Eververse store were in the past, you do kind of wonder. So that's the very good thing, the first very good thing. That armor is no longer gameplay affecting, it is purely just a cosmetic that you can purchase. Oh, and they're also making it so that any of that gear that you already have will be turned into a universal ornament, so it will be a part of that new, basically transmogrification, kind of cosmetic-only system. So, right, with that covered, we've got the next really good thing, and that is Bright Dust. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell is Bright Dust? Well, basically, if you were to purchase silver, the game's premium currency, and then purchase a bright engram with that silver, engram's basically a loot box, right? And then you opened it up, and you had a bunch of things in that engram. If you didn't want them, you could dismantle them, and that would turn into Bright Dust, with Bright Dust essentially being that kind of like dupe currency in a way. And you would essentially be able to just directly purchase cosmetics with Bright Dust. But that would mean that the best way to get Bright Dust was just to purchase a whole bunch of engrams and then just dismantle stuff. Now, of course, that would, it would give money to Bungie and all of that, but they are now changing it. Bright Dust is not at all attached to payments. Yeah, Bright Dust is no longer a pay-to-earn currency. It's now a play-to-earn currency. A 100% play-to-earn currency. So how are they doing that? Well, essentially, they're just adding Bright Dust as a reward for doing normal activities in the game, and that's on top of the current bounties that exist for Bright Dust. So that means that if you want to just be slowly picking up some of the cosmetics from Destiny 2, you're just going to have a constant stream of Bright Dust from your regular gameplay. And Bungie are telling people that they should just, not disenchant it, like break down all of their just stuff that you don't want, turn it into Bright Dust, and then use that Bright Dust to purchase stuff over the next while. With one of the reasons being that Eververse items can be pulled from your collection with either Glimmer or Legendary shards once this patch comes out. Now that might not make sense because that's just a whole bunch of words. So collections is basically just any armor that you unlock in the game is added to your collections, and you can make a copy of it for a little bit of currency. But being able to do that with either Glimmer or Legendary shards is pretty big. Glimmer, basically, if you're playing Destiny 2, Glimmer, you just have so much of it, you don't know what to do with it. So the way that you can purchase, or that you can pull those Eververse things out of your collections with Glimmer, that's very good. And then Legendary shards, a bit more useful, but still fundamentally a very, very common resource. And that is instead of Bright Dust. So yes, one of the ways that you would pull things out of your collections was with Bright Dust. So they are removing that as a Bright Dust sink, and they're giving you more ways to earn Bright Dust, and they're just making Bright Dust the thing that you're not going to be essentially paying for. It's quite incredible. Like, they have changed their microtransactions, their monetization, to be so much better than it was in the past. They have moved the game over to Steam. They have made it free to play with a very, very fair free to play version that honestly does give you a lot of content for free. They've changed their business model to be, I think, a good bit more fair. All of this as soon as they're away from Activision. And then you have to look at the other Activision games. Take Call of Duty Black Ops 4. It has such an opposite business model to this, and I think that's what's really interesting, because under Activision, this game was really expensive. It had a full season pass, it had you purchasing the game, it had you purchasing the expansion. And on top of that, it had really potent microtransactions for all of its cosmetics. And then you look at Call of Duty Black Ops 4, a game that's kind of similar, right? It's a full price game, it has a full season pass, and the microtransactions for that game are insane. Like, if I wanted to fully explain those microtransactions, we'd be sitting here for another 10 minutes explaining them, because it takes so damn long, and you basically need to make you need a dictionary to understand what's going on, like a Call of Duty specific dictionary or jargon buster, because it's all just shaded in weird words that make no sense. So that's I think the real takeaway here. They get away from Activision, they fix all of this stuff up massively. They make it so much better, so much more fair. And then you look back at Activision, you're like, yeah, there they are. You know, they've lost Destiny, they still have Call of Duty, and look what they are doing to that. The comparison, basically, it says it all. We'll just have to wait and see what Call of Duty Modern Warfare is going to be like, because that will be the next evolution of Activision publishing monetization, and I'm assuming it'll be the culmination of all they have learnt from their Destiny microtransactions and their Black Ops 4 microtransactions, and that means it's going to be pretty darn spooky. And then as the final bit of Destiny news, it's actually very interesting to see that their player counts seem to be increasing quite a bit. Now, that's interesting because it's not like Destiny 2 New Light has started. It still is the same old Destiny that you need to purchase, the game, Forsaken, and the season pass to play. But they quite recently got over 1 million daily active players. Yeah, they hit that on the weekend of the 16th of June, and that's pretty impressive because at one point after the launch of Destiny 2, I'm pretty sure that was under 600,000 and trending downwards. Now, those numbers are a little bit more hard to come by, but basically, Season of Opulence seems to have been pretty well received. They also, of course, had that big burst of good news that has had players more interested in the game, and it just does seem like they're on the uptick. They're actually... they could save Destiny. Destiny has always been a game where it's like, the gunplay is great, the art's great, all of this stuff's great, but I can't recommend it, and there's always been a few reasons why. It's always been a game shrouded by, it's great, but, or something like that. And it seems like that might not be the case anymore. And it seems like that's going to happen right as Bungie have the freedom to just execute whatever the hell they want. Now, there are still some worries. Destiny 2, that was still not a great game on launch, and that was a Bungie-developed game. Right? We can't blame Activision for all of that. Loads of mistakes with the Destiny franchise. You can level them squarely at Bungie. But it does seem like they've got this big new opportunity, and it does seem like they're trying to use it pretty darn well. So that's basically my thoughts on Destiny. I'm a lot more interested in the franchise. I really enjoyed Season of the Drifter. I'll probably hop into Opulence, and yeah, you can be damn sure I'll check out Shadowkeep and report to you what it is like. Thank you very much for watching this video. There will be more content on this channel tomorrow, and with that, I will see you next time.